This is what happens when you decide you were actually meant for more, okay? You develop a crazy amount of self-trust. Like a crazy amount. When you know for sure that you are meant for more, that's when you actually start to shut out the noise and you trust yourself, you trust your beliefs, you trust that inner knowing that you know you will figure it out and that you will get to where you need to go. You don't question if this is going to work for me or anything like that because you know deep down in your soul that you can figure anything out. So, this is what I have written down, okay? Your entire life shifts the moment you decide you're no longer available for a small, safe version of yourself, okay? And you can tell inside your body, inside your being, when you are playing small. You can tell, all of these random fears start to not random, we won't say random, okay? Our fears aren't random, they're usually rooted in logic a lot of the time. They're usually rooted in sometimes, not always. So they're usually, though, rooted in some sort of reasoning or some sort of fear that was like instilled in us in childhood or something like that, right? So understand that being afraid of something is normal, but it's how you then decipher it. It's how you respond to it. It's how you decide to move despite the fear. Okay? And when you decide that you're not going to be playing small anymore, you keep moving forward despite whether you're afraid or not. And so playing small is usually a nervous system habit, not a lack of potential, okay? Like this is what I was trying to say. It's a nervous system habit. Being afraid, usually that comes from either something in our childhood that we were taught was scary or we should be afraid of, right? But that was a lot of the time just, our parents or people in our community trying to keep us safe, but not actually explaining, just purely out of fear, not actually explaining to us why we should be afraid of it. And then as adults, we look at it and we're like, wait, why are we afraid of this, right? So same thing, right? And it's a nervous system response. For example, think about being afraid of the dark. A lot of the time, if you're afraid of the dark, that's just because of nervous system conditioning from when you were younger, right? But it doesn't mean you actually have to be afraid of the dark, and it doesn't mean you're never gonna go walk out at night, and it doesn't mean that you're never gonna be in a dark room. You're still gonna move forward despite the fear. You're still gonna keep going towards whatever it is that you need to do, right? It's the same thing here. It's the same thing with real estate investing. It's the same thing with building a business. It's the same thing with, I just started learning how to hip hop dance, right? Where I'm afraid that I'm going to just embarrass myself, right? But I keep moving forward despite the fear. And that is how you become successful. And it starts with the decision to be successful, the decision to stop playing small. And so here, let's check my notes, shall we? What do I have written down? Okay. When you decide you're meant for more, your standards rise automatically. Okay, so I think about it like this, for example, in my business, I used to do sales calls. And so what is a sales call? Basically is I would hop on calls with people who were thinking about joining either one of my programs or anything like that. But then I realized, especially after being in a mastermind group where no one did sales calls, I realized a lot of that was rooted in fear. And it was just a way that someone had told me is the only way that you can make sales and you can have a big business is if you hop on sales call and you handle everyone's objections and all this stuff, use these sales tactics. And I was like, I just don't want to do this. I didn't start my coaching business because I wanted to spend all of my hours on calls with people, but trying to get them into my programs. No, I know that what I have is valuable. And so this is me raising my standards. I know that what I have is valuable and the right people will join my programs. The right people will want to be a part of the community and want to up level and want to buy properties and want to build wealth. The right people, they know who they are. They feel it in their soul. They don't need to be convinced, right? They will join. They always do. And I think about all of my best students, and all of my students are great, but all of my best students, they joined because they knew deep down inside that this is something that they needed to do, and they needed to be around other people in community with people who were also doing this too, right? But I had to raise my standard, right? I could have remained in the belief that I could only make sales or get people to join my programs by hopping on a sales call or hopping on a discovery call with them before they actually joined the program. Or I could raise my standard and have the belief that the right people would be called to join. Right? That's a very different energy, very different standard, right? So I want you to think about this for yourself. What standards do you have, and how can you actually raise your vibration, raise your standards so that, which will actually signal you making the decision to live a higher quality of life. To know, and it raises your own perception of yourself as well. It raises your own perception of yourself because you hold your beliefs, your viewpoint, your time as worthy, right? As worthy. Okay, that's where you actually can. You value your time, you value your life, you value your money, you value, and you put it towards things that are going to raise your standards, raise your vibrations, raise the way you get to move through the world. Okay? Well, that was a little roundabout, but we eventually got there, okay? So you need to, because the thing is, opportunities, money, and aligned people start showing up because your identity finally matches that. When you're living in scarcity, when you're coming at things from a place of scarcity, from a lower vibration, from a place where your standards are lower, obviously the opportunities do not match. I think this is also why, I know, this is why when a lot of people who join Wanderlust Wealth Academy, which is my coaching program where we teach you how to, well, not just teach you, but we really hold your hand on how to buy your first or next, second, third, fourth investment property. A lot of folks join because they've been like thinking about real estate for a year, 2 years, 3 years, some even since 5 years or longer than that. And they're like, no, I'm ready to raise my standard. I'm ready to raise my vibration. I'm ready to actually make this happen. And then when they join, they get under contract on a property in less than 2 months because now they basically signaled to the universe that they're ready. They've signaled to the universe that this is it. They've signaled to the universe, they've signaled to themselves, they've raised their standards, they've raised their beliefs about themselves that they can actually make this happen, right? And that's the beauty of raising your standards, right? What all of the what ifs and things. Also, my hair looks cute. We're curly. Let me curl up here. But all of the limiting beliefs that you had before, the thought patterns saying like, is this possible for me? Those start to go away when you actually raise your standard. Because if you were acting as the woman who actually had the thing, you wouldn't be questioning it. You wouldn't be asking what if. You would just know, you'd have deep certainty that this was going to happen, that this was already happening, that you were already in process, that it had already happened in a different timeline, basically. You would know deep down in your soul the same way that you know that the sun is going to rise every single day. You would know that you're going to become a real estate investor. You would know that you are a wealthy woman. You would know that you have a thriving business, right? And you're not asking what if. You're not asking about like, oh, what if this fails? Because failure just isn't an option because you've entered into a new identity where failure just never happened. Failure was not an option, you know? And so here's what I also wrote down is, you stop negotiating with your worth and you start making decisions from certainty instead of fear. People who are threatened by your expansion fall away, and that's evidence of your growth, not a loss, okay? Because when you start to make decisions as that future self, the people who can't keep up, they end up falling away. And that's like, we have a whole other episode about that, and that sometimes can be a really hard thing. But this is how you truly move to the next level. This is how you become the wealthy woman, you know? You begin acting like the woman who gets what she wants. You're confident, you're decisive, you trust yourself, you choose yourself first. You stop putting yourself and your desires last, you choose yourself first. Because you know that whenever you choose yourself, you raise everyone else around you as well. Because your next level doesn't happen gradually. It happens truly at the moment that you decide that this is going to be your next level. You decide that you are here now. You're not waiting anymore. It's not something that's going to happen in a year. It's not something that's going to happen in 5 years. It's not something that's going to happen in 10 years. It's going to happen right now. It's going to happen right now. It's already happened, and you got to know that deep down in your soul. You need to act like that. You need to upgrade your standards. And that, once that happens, that's when you know that you fully trust yourself. When you start moving like the woman, when you start moving like the person who has the properties, who has the wealth, who has the freedom, who has the joyful life, who just moves through life differently, right? That comes from a place of self-trust. That comes from a place of knowing that you follow through with all of your actions. You follow through with everything that you said you were going to do. Oh, I love this. Well, just an FYI too. So for anyone who is wanting to buy investment properties, we are running an amazing deal on Wanderlust Wealth Academy, which is my coaching program. It ends today. It literally ends today on the last day of November for Black Friday. We have a deal. What am I saying? We have a deal happening that ends today. It is my coaching program. We really walk you through buying your first, second, third, fourth investment properties. There are 2 different phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is really for people buying their first properties. Phase 2 is more so for folks who are looking to scale or maybe looking to use different strategies. So if you want to buy a short-term rental specifically, or if you want to buy a co-living property, or if you want to start using other people's money, then you're probably going to want to be in phase 2. But all of the details for it are in the link in the bio. We are all about raising the collective standard here, and I cannot wait to see you there. Bye.